Well, I'm guessing that in a place even as big as London, your men were soon marked by the betting shop managers. So what happened next?
Right, so what started to happen was that it was actually scandalous what the bookmakers was actually doing to us. It come to the stage you'd get a bet on, which years ago a bet was very, very binding. It was a bookmaker and client's relationship was a bond, like it was sort of like your word, like it was sort of a handshake when you had a bet. But what the bookmakers was doing, I'll give you an example. I was in a Ladbrokes in Forest Gate one night. I got on about three £50 forecasts. Now I'd have my put runners would have been doing the same bets. They'd have been duplicating the bet that I have had. Some of them would get it for like 20 quid for me. Some of them would get it for 100 quid for me. This day, I think that I got this bet on for £50 each forecast for this race. I put the bet on literally a minute before the off. It's an SP bet. I haven't took, obviously a forecast. I haven't took any prices on it. As the dogs are coming round the second bend, the dog that I've had to run second was a strong finisher, and this dog was actually in front, so I know that I've done my money. The phone has rang, the manager or the person behind the counter has come running out. He said, I'm afraid to tell you, he said, this bet's void. So I said, oh. Anyway, I've given him the bet back because I know the bet is beat. But it's pretty scandalous if you think about it. That if you told a layman this, they'd say, no, that can't happen. They're not allowed to do that. You've had the bet and the race is off. That's binding. But no, they would literally cancel bets after you've had the bet. They would say to you when you went in and drew the bet, oh, this bet's been voided and things like that. And you'd say, well, how can it be voided? If this bet would have got beat, I've walked out the shop, I would have thrown my ticket away and thrown it on the floor. So what you're actually saying is that you're just robbing me, really, that I can't win, that if I put this bet on and it loses, I'm throwing the ticket away, and if it wins, I'll get my money back. So where is the logic in that? And you'd think, well, no, that's true, they can't do that, but they actually are, and they actually was. They was actually taking the piss out of me, really, because it come to the stage where you could only lose. I'll give you an example of a recent happening of this. I put a bet on literally in a shop, 250 yards down the road from where I live. It was a forecast double and treble bet at Rumford. I think it probably last winter. I've got the bet on. Now, it had gone through their checks and everything with Ladbrokes, which has got, it's not like they've got to ring it up. It literally, when they put that bet through into the thing, it's shown up at their head office and it's checked, and it has to be passed for them to take that bet. After about 3 or 4 minutes, they've taken the bet. They've given me the betting slip back. The bet come to about £195 for forecast doubles and trebles, but £195 on forecast doubles and trebles, which would have probably been a 3x3x3 or a 3x3x4, something like that. It can be astronomical payout. When I say astronomical, like it could theoretically be 100,000, 150,000, 50,000. It's a large amount for a small outlay. Not that it happens very often. I've probably only ever had 2 or 3 up in my life, and not for that sort of money. But I've had forecast doubles up and things like that. The first leg has won, and it's now big money is rolling on. Big money is rolling on to the second and third legs. For forecast double and forecast trebles. The meeting has been abandoned. I think it was raining, torrential rain, and the meeting had got abandoned. The bet at this stage was worth, I think it was about 1,200 quid that the bet come to. So we've had the first forecast, which would have been like 3 selections of forecast, like 2-1, 3-1, 4-1. For example, 2-1's come up. The remaining events had all been abandoned, so the rest of the bet is void. So I've got the first forecast in doubles and trebles with a non-runner and non-runner. So I've got 1 double and 1 treble, but I've only got 1 forecast that's actually won. The bet had come to something like 1,200, 1,250 quid, which would have been the money that I'd rolled it in. Gone to the betting shop, put the ticket over the counter. The fella said, he said, I'm glad you come in. He said, this bet's void. So I said, what do you mean it's void? He said, yeah. He said, no. He said, we shouldn't have took this bet. I said, mate, I've stood here for 5 minutes. I said, you see me stand here? I said, well, the bet was verified. I said, it's been verified, that bet. I said, so how can you void it? I said, if we would have got beat, I said, I'd have thrown it away. So he said, no. He said, mate, they've rung up. He said, and it's voided. I said, mate, don't be stupid, please. After 10 minutes to customer services, they said, we're going to honour this bet, like if they was doing me some sort of favour. And they paid me out the money that I had to come £1,200. But it's actually come to the stage where I would say it's virtually impossible for me to have 2 bets in a shop if I'm no. If I have 1 bet, the cameras will be on in that shop. They will see my face. They will know who I am. And there's no second bet, whether the first bet is won or lost. And that applies to, am I allowed to say the firms that it applies to, or not really, Simon? That applies to Paddy Powers, William Mills, Ladbrokes, Coles, Jennings. All of these shops are no-go areas for me. Don't think that I'm saying that I can't walk into a betting shop and be lucky that there's just a cashier behind there rather than a manager and take a liberty and get a £200, £300 bet on. It can happen, and it does happen. But to say that I can walk into a betting shop and bet, it'd be an absolute no-go area for me getting a bet on in the shop.
So how do you get on these days?
I've got people, years ago when I'm talking about when Walthamstow was still open, and then moving on to Sittingbourne, Crayford and Oxford, I had probably a hardcore putter-runners for me that was probably 5 full-time putter-runners. Not that any of them got paid, my information was their payment. So it's not like I paid them to put my bets on. They knew that if they listened to what I was doing, that they was going to win plenty of money at the end of the year. I'm not saying all of the people would have doubled my bets, but they would have, if I was having a... When you was able to get... It come to the stage where you could get like a couple of £100 on, they'd probably have got £100 on the single where I was having £200, and if I was having a 40 quid forecast, they might have been getting a 20 quid forecast. If I was getting a £30 tri-cast, they would have probably got it for £10 or £15. So it become harder and harder and harder to get on, and not being big-headed. There was other people who was good as well. Paul Richardson, Alan Richardson at Romford and Crayford was great judges. Fella called Jack at Hove, very shrewd cookie. By all accounts, although I've only actually seen him, I can't say that I know Jack, but a great judge. People up north, like they've got good judges up north. There's people who do what I do everywhere. People say, well, what's the difference? Was you better than them? Who was the best? And it's a very hard question, because we'd all be good at different things slightly. Like my mate Paul Richardson was good at full cast and tri-cast. He was on a different level to me doing that, although he taught me and I listened to him. So I learned a lot from Paul at Crayford, like with like full cast and tri-cast and things like that. And he was a lot in front. He was a lot in front of me in brain terms for doing things like that. When Walthamstow was open, it would have been very lucrative for me to be able to do something like that. I rarely did. I bet winners, But I wouldn't have had like sort of the brain to say, oh my god, this is a really good second dog here, and this is a good frame up dog. I didn't really have that brain really. It was pretty sinful really that I didn't take advantage of it really. So.
You've obviously got the greyhounds by the short and curly. Do you ever get involved in any other sort of sporting events for professional punting?
That is a complete and definite no from me, Simon. I am completely one-dimensional. I'm terrible. I don't ever bet on a football. I will have a bet on anything that I see. I'll give you an example. When Joe McElderry won X Factor, I had him to win £50,000. Which is a large amount to win. Again, I didn't have no expertise, but I was watching it, and every week he was a good singer, he was likeable, he was good looking, and he was 14-1. Every week I was, well, not so much every week, every day, like he was 14-1 for £100 on Betfair. I was scooping it all up, and I backed him and backed him and backed him and backed him and backed him. I think I went on a holiday for 3 weeks to Vegas over Christmas and New Year on the winnings when he won it. I mean, obviously he shortened up in the end. He was like odds on for the last 2 or 3 weeks. But when he was a big price, I was scooping up all the money. I will bet on anything that I see. I just don't see that much anymore. Where I don't go in betting shops no more. I won't say, oh my God, that horse run well there, or I don't see it now. So I'm very, very blinkered what I do. I gamble on Graham Mason and that's it. I haven't got an opinion on anything else.
How do you get your money on them now?
I've got people putting on for me. Very, very different now. I'm where once upon a time my people who put on for me would be very localised. There'd be one would be in, for example, Hackney, one would be in Leytonstone, one would be in Romford, and one might be as far as Bermondsey. But now, the people who are putting on for me are that part of the country, a different country, and a different country. It's all over the place now. Again, I should imagine a lot of professional punters, if you think, would say pretty similar. Yeah, we've got people here, there and everywhere who are putting on for us now. But once upon a time, I would be able to get on I'm in central London or on the outskirts of London, and central London being very close. There's literally a shop every 150 yards. It's not like I say, there's a scarcity of things, but it's very much changed. I can't get there's one good thing. You still have a massive turnover of cashiers and managers in shops. So you literally, as you say, I bar from that shop, I can't get a bet on in there. 6 months later, you'll have a completely new crop of staff in there. So you start all over again, sort of thing. But it's extremely hard to get on now. All the people who are punting now would say exactly the same. Whether they're betting on horses, whether they're betting on dogs, they'll all say that it's a struggle to get on. Whether things turn around with, excuse me for keeping coughing, Simon. Whether this will all change now that these roulette terminals are coming down to £2. That actually does come in from £100. These shops are going to be forced to do something different to what they're doing now, because the profits on these machines is astronomical. Although, like they say, it's a single zero. The edge the edge for the house is like 2.7% or 2.8%. It's much more than that. That's per spin, but when it's spin after spin after spin after spin, the edge for the house is extremely big. Like they're an absolute golden cow. Like they're laying golden eggs every day, these machines. When that comes down to £2, you will see a difference. Whether that difference is that they're forced to lay or whether they close loads of shops down, I do not know. But it will change.
There's some 18-year-old been took to the dogs by his dad. He loves it. He's found he can back a few winners. He wants to be like you. Is there still the opportunity there?
Less and less, really, Simon. horse racing is still not so much a big pond as a sea. Where once upon a time you could say horse racing was an ocean and dog racing was a sea, now the horse racing is a sea and the dog racing is coming to a pond, and that pond is drying up and getting smaller and smaller. Tracks will close. As the land that these dog tracks are on, for example, Hove, how much longer can Hove actually stay open for? The land that it's built on is worth a king's ransom. It's going to go one day, whether it's in a year's time or 10 years' time, Hove will go, one of the major tracks. In the end, you will come down to tracks purely being owned by bookmakers, and they will be to feed the betting shops with dog racing. At the moment, Simon, there used to be, once upon a time, there used to be 2 afternoon meetings on the dogs. That was it. Talking about going back 10 or 15 years ago. There'd be 2 afternoon meetings. Then there was 2 morning meetings, 2 afternoon meetings. Then there was 2 morning meetings, 2 afternoon meetings, 2 evening meetings. Now there's 4 morning meetings, there's 4 afternoon meetings, there's a matinee meeting, there's a so-and-so meeting, there's an early evening meeting. There's too much dog racing. There's not that many dogs out there to supply these tracks anymore, Simon. Some dogs, I was talking to a friend of mine through text the other day, and he said one dog has run, I think, 6 times in January or 7 times in January. That's coming up to 2 runs a week. Like, it's completely ridiculous. It was unheard of years ago, like something like that happening, Simon. There'd be, if a dog was getting a run once a week, it was having a lot of races. But now there's just a shortage of dogs. There's a demand. It's going to come to the stage, in my opinion, where certain tracks are going to be having 4s and 5 dog races. They will be full up for the. They will try to be full up for the bags meetings, but it will come to the stage if they have like a Saturday night meeting, like the meeting where they can get people into the track to sell them beer and a bit of food. It will come to the stage where a lot of them races will be 5 dog races. There's just too much racing. It's overkill at the moment.
Do you get, like last year's Star Sports sponsored the Greyhound Derby, you
Yep.
back horses to win a fortune there. Do you get involved with trying to sort out the winners of those big events?
Do you know what, Simon? I've got to put my hands up. I've never, ever, ever made a profit out of betting on the Derby. It's even when I was very, very successful, extremely successful, I can't ever remember backing a winner on the Derby. I really can't. It's very, very hard, strangely, to win on the Derby. It's very difficult. Like this year's Derby, I have to say, I'm not just saying this because Star Sports sponsored it. It was without doubt the best Derby that I've ever been to, and I haven't been to every Derby. People say, "Oh, I went to the Derby." I haven't been to every Derby, but it was fantastic this year. Towcester was absolutely fantastic. It was, to say phenomenal, it wouldn't be bigging it up too much to say it was fantastic. The whole thing about it was well run, great racing, great atmosphere. It was the best that I've ever been to. So hopefully Ben continues to sponsor it and it carries on and gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And another thing, everyone in the dog game is behind Towcester 100%. Whether you like the track, a lot of people are knockers of the running track and things like that, but behind Towcester 101%.